That's so funny. Hi, Anne.
Hi.
I'm looking at these glasses and, I come from Chicago, so it's like I've got Harry Carey glasses.
Oh, that's funny.
But they're blue blockers and they actually help.
Oh, yeah.
I
No,
love
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
We're live everywhere for whatever reason. Our Instagram connection is expired, so we're not live there, but everywhere else, we're good to go.
Okay. Hello. It is Tuesday. It's 4:00 Pacific, 6:00 here in Costa Rica and Central, 7:00 on the East Coast, midnight in Dublin, 1 a.m. in London, Paris, Milan, and Warsaw, 8:30 a.m. Wednesday morning in Australia, 11:00 a.m. Wednesday morning in New Zealand, and it's Facebook Live. Hello, everyone. Tell us where you're from as you check in here. I love seeing Christina says greetings from Costa Rica. Hi, Christina. Nice to see you're here. Thank you so much. It tickles me when I can see where people are coming from all over the country. Susanna's in Toronto, Karen's in Florida. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for letting us know where you are. And I'm just going to dive into it because I know what's going to happen is that we're going to run out of time because there's so many questions that'll come in. I don't know how to pronounce that first name. Jabriel, J.G. Jabriel in Guatemala. Hello, Jabriel. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to introduce my good friend, Jodi Cohen, who I don't have anything for a bio. So I get to just say I've known Jodi for many years, and Jodi is one of those health educators who came from boots on the ground, that there was a crisis in her family and in her health, and she got fed up and wanted to figure out what to do. And the result is she has now helped tens of thousands of people. And this is going to be on the topic tonight of essential oils. Jodi is going to talk about this. And yeah, I never knew that much about essential oils. I've learned a lot from Jodi, and I'm really glad she's here. So hi, Jodi.
Hi, thank you for the sweet introduction. And
Yes.
my company is Vibrant Blue Oils, if anyone wants to look that up. And, if
We'll post a link and we'll get that all posted. And here comes our primary guest tonight. Marcy, come over in the screen with Gio. There we go.
Oh my goodness. Hi, Marcy.
Oh, there we go. Wait.
How old is Gio?
Gio turned 2 last month.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yes, he just woke up from a nap a little while ago, and he's not quite on 8 cylinders yet, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, Josie, bye-bye.
Oh.
Okay, bye-bye, Jodi.
Bye. Oh, he is so cute.
That he is. We feel blessed, and we're very grateful that. And I'm going to do actually my next book is on this topic of how to prepare for pregnancy. And I'll just say right now, every woman of childbearing age needs to detox before they get pregnant. And we'll go through all the science behind why and all that. But the book's going to be on preparing for pregnancy, a healthy pregnancy, a safe delivery, and a healthy infancy. And what does all that take? And I have a very strong feeling about that because I think the only way we're going to save the planet, the way we know the planet, is the next generation has to think outside the box. And they're not going to be able to think outside the box if we keep telling our children, no, don't do that. No, don't do it. No, sit down, eat your dinner. All of that we grew up with, all of that suppression has allowed us to expand to our limits, but we need this next generation to have more expanded limits.
Yes.
Because we've created such problems that no one has a clue how to address or is being successful. From the health perspective, the CDC tells us that we've lost another 2 years of projected life span in the US. From 2021 to 2022, we went down another 1.8 years for men and 1.6 years for women, meaning people born today are projected not to live as long. And it's 2 years that it was 1.8 years in a 1 year period. The estimate went from you're going to live till 78. Now it's 76 for people born today. So
Wow.
and every autoimmune disease is going up 4 to 9% a month,
Yeah.
not a year, a month,
Yeah.
4 to 9%. It's most of the statistics, let me say that again. Most of the statistics are per year. And I said that wrong. It's 4 to 9% per year, not per month. Celiac disease goes up exponentially quicker, and wheat-related disorders is going up exponentially quicker, but it's 4 to 9% a year. I
Yeah.
said that wrong the first time. But 4 to 9% a year, and the worst of them all is celiac. The worst
Yeah.
of them all is celiac and wheat-related disorders. But we aren't talking about that tonight. But that's all because we need a generation, the next generation, to think differently about living life and how to live life, thinking differently.
Well, and I think
And
your point about detoxifying before you get pregnant is so spot on. Because
critical.
if the mom doesn't pass on the toxins to the baby starts out ahead of the game.
Exactly. And I think this is, and there's some evidence that the primary reason why autism is going through the roof so quickly. When I came out in practice, it was 1 in 10,000.
Yeah.
And now it's 1 in 36, 1 in 40, depending on what study you read. And the reason for this, in my opinion, is that babies' brains are not developing to their potential when mom is full of these toxins that inhibit brain growth.
Yeah.
You know, if you just type in phthalates, those are the chemicals used to mold plastic, PHTHALATES, phthalates, and neurogenesis. Here come the studies, how the chemicals in plastics inhibit your brain growth, inhibit your nerve growth. And so when mom is full of these chemicals and she gets pregnant, hopefully she's going to have a healthy pregnancy. Everything goes great and a healthy birth. But baby's brain does not develop to its potential because of all the chemicals that was in the soup of the uterus, the amniotic fluid, when baby's developing.
And for people that are listening, we can talk about how oils, like, you know, I think you can always unravel things, right? So if you're not yet pregnant, we can help you detoxify before you're pregnant. If you already have multiple children, we can help you detoxify. You know, like you can always, which is what I love about you books. Yeah, you can always change your diet. You can always change your protocol. Like, you know, the game's not over.
Right. Exactly right. And so our job here and our goal is to empower people to take action steps.
Yes.
So from that perspective, let's talk about essential oils.
Right.
And
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. As you mentioned, I was, you know, I tried to be healthy. I thought I was healthy. Had my first kid. She was easy breezy. Thought I was a great mom. Had number 2, not easy. Nothing I did seemed to help his ADD and his impulse control. In fact, our cue with him, when he was your son's age, we used to be like, look at my nose. And our kid was all over the place, like could not focus.
Yeah.
And I got into nutrition because I was at the park one day with a friend and my son was actually being incredibly well behaved. And then another mom gave him a Ritz cracker. He Jekyll-Hyde'd. She said, you know, that's interesting. My brother was on Ritalin his whole life, and it turned out he was just allergic to weird foods. You should take him to a nutritionist. And I thought, why not? I could do that. Took him to a nutritionist, changed his diet, and the next day he could look at my nose.
Wow.
And I thought that
in one day.
One day. Because, you know, the excitotoxins in the brain, like we used to joke, if they gave him neon gum, he'd be on the ceiling. I mean, I could tell when I'd pick him up from a play date if he ate something that he wasn't supposed to eat. It was that obvious, but that kind of put me on the trajectory of studying nutrition and supplements, which are amazing. And then his dad was bipolar, so he probably got a bit of a chemical imbalance from his father's side. And attempted suicide, and I found a residential treatment facility. And once I basically had him in a place where I knew he was safe and I knew he wasn't going to die on my watch, it was like, I had been so stressed and so in fight or flight for so long that I could finally relax. And it basically took me out. I had no cortisol left in my system. I was just pretty catatonic, but the kids were little. I had a job. I was class parent. I, really needed to show up. And none of the remedies I was ingesting they weren't making me worse, but they weren't helping enough. And someone suggested oils because, and I'm curious what you think of this. They basically said, you've been so high cortisol for so long that your gut's probably toast. So you're probably not digesting, absorbing, and assimilating any of the supplements you're taking. Try oils because you can smell them and they get into the brain that way, or you can topically apply them and they get in through the skin. And I was so desperate, I figured, why not? And I knew enough about my physiology and what was kind of out of balance that I really, tried to focus on remedies that would help support my adrenal glands, help support my hypothalamus, help support my parasympathetic nervous system. And that helped. That actually worked. And so when I started to feel better, all of my friends were like, wait, what did you do? How does that work? And I kept doing research, and it was so obvious that this was a nice complement. I mean, obviously, if you're celiac and you're going to keep eating pizza, it's not going to help you. But if you're doing everything else right, it's a great accoutrement. And so that's really how we got started.
That's a great, great story. And out of necessity. And your son in one day, his focus was so much better. That's really marvelous to hear. A couple of shout outs here. Cohen, let's see. Mia is in North Wales, the UK. Hi, Mia. Michelle's in Florida. Jill's in Southern California. Colin is in Bridlington, England, UK. Hey, Colin, thank you guys for staying up. I know it's late there. Thank you so much. We'll do our best to make it worthwhile. And I'll say some more down the road. There's a question from Colin, and this is a good one. How does one deal with multiple health issues when conventional medicine cannot diagnose a medical condition?
Well, that's actually what I wrote my book on. I think that at the core of every issue is kind of sleep, stress, and movement and lymph flow. And I think that, our mutual friend, Dr. Christine Schaffner, was telling me people sometimes show up at her office with like literally file folders of, tests and information. And she's like, that's a data point, and that can change. What we're really looking at is, are you sleeping? Because as you know, when you sleep, that's when you detoxify and heal. How is your stress level? Because if your body is chronically thinking a lion is chasing you, it's down regulating everything that's not critical to survival, including your immune function, your ability to detoxify, your ability to digest food, your ability to have a calm conversation with a friend. And then if you're not moving, lymph flow, like detox is really important, but how does the garbage leave the cell? It goes from the cell to the fascia, to the lymph, to the blood, to the liver, gallbladder, gut, toilet. But if it can't leave the cell, then you're not moving the garbage out. And so no matter what is going on and no matter what test results you're getting or not getting, if you can balance those three systems, you often start to feel better.
That's a great overview of basic how-to, boots on the ground, let's get going kind of an answer.
Yes.
That's great. My answer for you, Colin, is that you have to identify where the inflammation's coming from. When your conventional docs can't diagnose what's going on, that's great. That's marvelous. It means you don't have a disease, because if you had a disease, they'd find it, they'd name it, they'd put a label on it so they could give you a drug for it. But when they can't find out what's going on for you and you're just funky, that's always an inflammation state, always. And as Jodi said, you start walking. Walking reduces inflammation. And I talked a couple of weeks ago, and Colin, you were here on that study from the Journal of the American Medical Association, that the magic number is 9,876. You take 9,876 steps a day, you reduce your risk of dementia by 57%. So that's 10,000 steps a day. You know, you put a pedometer on, or, you know, these watches now, it's easy to measure how many steps a day you take. And you just make sure I'm going to work up, and it may take you a few months, but you work up to 10,000 steps a day. And the result will be you're moving the way Jodi is talking. And if you're kicking yourself in the butt to do that, you're also asking questions about what foods am I eating? What inflammatory foods am I eating? And the one that Jodi mentioned that many people just don't talk about, what's the quality of my sleep? And am I getting enough? Because she went by it really quick. But you do not heal unless you're in a parasympathetic dominant state. That's a type of function of your brain and nervous system. If you are always fighting saber-toothed tigers, the way Jodi talked about it, that's a sympathetic dominant state, the fight, flight, or fright. You never sleep very well. And so you rarely get into the parasympathetic dominant state, which is the healing state, the nourishing state. And it doesn't happen when you're in sympathetic dominance. So sleep is really important. Focus on sleep. Though I fully agree with you, Jodi, that that's a great overview for people to have. Let's see, Faina's in New York. Let's see, Lynn Trock is in Arizona. Hi, Lynn. Ty's watching, and there's so many people watching, but tell us where you're from. We'd love to know where you're from. Lynn's in Roswell. I believe that's Georgia. Here's a question from Lynn. She says, where other than behind the ears can I apply your parasympathetic combination? It seems to cause itchiness behind my ears.
Yeah, you can smell it. And then also on the bottom of the foot, right here on the left foot is kind of a vagus nerve point that you can use. There are also some acupuncture points. That's actually, you know, I'm going to write my next blog on that, on certain acupuncture points. My favorite one is spleen 6. If you, from the kind of ankle bone, use, let me see, from the ankle bone, go up 4 fingers, and it's right there. Acupuncture points are always kind of divots. So if you just kind of feel on your foot, 4 fingers up from your ankle, you can kind of feel it. That's a really good point.
No, Jodi, is that on your foot or on your leg, up the ankle?
It's up the leg from the ankle. Thank you. Good clarification point. Yeah.
Okay.
So just if this is your ankle bone, go up kind of 4 fingers and like right.
Got it. Sorry, I didn't mean it, but
no. You can also, if you want to, put it kind of at the base of the I'll try to demonstrate the base of the skull right here. And because there's a hairline there, that might be less irritating, but you have lots of options.
Okay, you had a lot of hair in the way. We couldn't see where you were touching.
Here,
was it?
I know.
Yeah.
Right, if you kind of go up from the hairline again.
In the center there.
Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you. Sorry, I know.
No, that's good. Good. Janet's in White Lake. My mother lived in White Lake. Janet, I know that area pretty well. That's in Michigan. Susan says hello from Pennsylvania. Love your lives, Dr. Tom, and love Jodi's parasympathetic oil at bedtime. So we will put a link in here to Jodi's website. And I like the parasympathetic oil myself, and I don't use oils much. We use them in the bedroom when Marzi remembers, which is probably 2 or 3 times a week at nighttime. As we're getting ready to put Gio down, he goes down with Marzi first, and so we have some oils misted in the room most nights. But if I remember, it's like twice a week, and I'll grab that parasympathetic blend. I just rub it under my nose. And is that, Jodi, is that effective enough, rubbing under the nose?
So, you know, what's really interesting to me with smell and smell memory is that it's almost like, a Pavlovian reflex. Like if you smell it enough, it's almost like a switch just gets flipped. You're like, oh yeah, your body remembers that's my signal to relax. So the reality is once you've been using it for a while, it doesn't actually matter exactly where you put it.
Got it.
I try, a lot of the people that find me are very worried about making a mistake or doing anything wrong. So I try to be as specific and give them the strategy that will be the most effective, but there are many strategies that are effective.
Right. Right. The reason why there's a Pavlovian response, and I've checked with 2 neurologists, and they agreed that the only nerves in the body that go back up into the brain without any screening, any blocks, any safety measures are the olfactory nerves, the nerves of smell. They're the only ones. And there's 2 reasons for that I can come up with there. I'm sure there's more, but our ancient ancestors, you have the same body as your ancestors, and our ancient ancestors, their primary function in the day was to find food. Then it was shelter, then it was safety, and then it was reproduction. But food was first. And they find something, the first thing they do is they snip it. And these nerves, the olfactory nerves that have no blockage whatsoever, go right back to the hypothalamus. I'm sorry, to the hippocampus, the memory center of the brain. It goes right back to the memory center and then continues, but it goes to the memory center first, so that you can recognize if something is a dangerous smell. And the other reason is you're walking down the trail and you smell saber-toothed tiger, you better turn around really quick and get out of there.
It's critical to survival. You smell food and water, and you smell predator odor and fire. Yep.
Right. They're the only nerves in the body that have no blockage.
Right.
So I think it's a direct system. So you put the oils and you smell the oil or mist or whatever, but they're going back up the olfactory nerve and is recognized as parasympathetic support.
Yeah,
Relax.
there's some really interesting research that, like, for kids, if you're trying to teach them like vocab words or spelling words or math problems, and you smell something when you're studying, and then you smell it again before the test, it helps with recall for that exact reason. It almost like imprints the information in your brain.
Oh, that's an interesting tool for those that are looking for any edge that they can get in taking exams. That's a really good one. Well, let's see. Susan's asked, I had a hive outbreak a few days ago and used your histamine blend. I wasn't sure where to put it, but rubbed it behind my ears. I ended up having to take a Benadryl because I was so itchy.
I'm so sorry. You can do it behind the ears, on the back of the neck. I often do that one, honestly, on the bottom of the feet. And that helps a lot. That's the one I actually like. I don't know why, but I always find hotel rooms smell kind of moldy. And so I bring it with me to hotel rooms, and sometimes I'll just smell it. Or my other trick is sometimes I'll just get like salt, like just little packs of salt, and put it, in whatever they have in the hotel, and put a couple drops of the histamine in the salt just by the bedside table. And it acts as a natural diffuser. So it kind of cleans the air. So whatever your, if there was mold damage, which it seems a lot of hotels have, or they use weird toxic cleaning products, it just helps you not react.
Yeah. And that's your histamine blend that you're referring to.
Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting. And for salt, I mean, people say, well, where do I get the salt? Well, any cafeteria has the little packs of salt and pepper.
Or usually hotels have restaurants, I just
you just grab a couple.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great to know. Let's see here. Let's move along and see. Lisa's in New Jersey. Let's see. Questions are coming into the Q&A, and I need a link to the Q&A. Oh, there's a link. Thank you, Ann. I should call you Radar. Lori's on Facebook says, hi from Indiana. I developed high blood pressure while I had COVID. I now have been struggling with high blood pressure for a year. Any suggestions?
Blood pressure is complicated, and obviously work with your doctor and things like that. From an oil standpoint, we have a new one. I don't know if you've seen this one yet, fascia. So basically with blood pressure, think of areas in your body there's a lot going on at once. So imagine if you're on an airplane in the middle seat between two linebackers, anyone who's ever kind of had that experience of like, you're not even reading a book, like your arms are going nowhere. Think of your vascular system. One of the things is that the lymph, the fascia, all these things can kind of compress against it. So just helping to, set your body up so that everything is kind of in balance and working optimally and also supporting it. Like the more you support your lymph, the more you support your fascia, the more you kind of alleviate stress on the blood vessels. So I would start there. And then I'm sure Tom has some good dietary suggestions.
Those are excellent essential oil suggestions. Excellent. Yeah, there's a product called Cardiotone, and
Yeah.
Ann will put the link into it here, which is unbelievable, jaw-dropping to me. And I've talked about it on Facebook Live over the last few months a number of times. We'll put the link here today because it's been shown in the literature to reduce high blood pressure, to reduce your risk of clots, to reduce high cholesterol levels that have come about as a result of an inflammatory condition going on. So certainly if you're having a sensitivity reaction to the injections that you received, this may help. And one of the ingredients in Cardiotone is nattokinase. Nattokinase is shown in the literature. I showed the studies a few weeks ago to dissolve the spike protein of COVID, which means that protein will, that docking station on the virus that docks into your receptor to get inside the cell, that docking station of the virus gets destroyed. It gets eaten up by the enzyme. It just dissolves it, which means the virus cannot dock into the docking station on your cells. So the virus cannot get inside the cell, or it's reduced in its ability to get inside the cell. And the result of that, because the viruses don't reproduce, they shed like dandruff. And they only shed inside the cell. So if the virus can't get inside the cell because you're taking Cardiotone that dissolves the spike protein of the virus, it can't get inside the cell. It's going to reduce your sensitivity, reduce any reactions you may be vulnerable to. And it's brought a lot of people back to normal function. It's really great to see. Really great to see that. Lynn's on Facebook. She says, I love Jodi's book and have been using Parasympathetic and just started Fascial Blend. Great. Thanks, Lynn. Leslie's asking, can you combine the use of different essential oils at the same time? Example might parasympathetic and liver support. They'd be placed on different parts of the body that they are supposed to belong on.
Yeah, those are great to use together. Parasympathetic, again, behind the earlobes or kind of at the back of the neck. And then liver support is amazing. All of the organs are correlated with emotions in Chinese medicine. The liver is correlated with anger. I personally, as a good girl pleaser, like someone does something and I'm mad on the inside, but I don't get mad on the outside because that would be rude or I might offend them. So I store it in the liver. And so especially like, it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on this, like when we're PMSing, I wonder, like, that's the liver bleeding. Is that the liver letting out our anger? Is that what's really going on? So I found that liver support, especially when I'm detoxing and doing programs for the liver, that is amazing to I put it over the liver. So right side of the body, under the breast. You can also smell it. And it's great for, you guys might be much calmer than I am. I'm a Scorpio, so I get a little spicy. The moments when I'm like, I'm just grumpy and no one needs to be around that, I just smell it and it helps me feel a lot less grumpy.
Now, does your family say, Mom, go smell the liver?
You know what they sometimes say? I used to joke because I have dogs. I'm like, I think I'm going to go take myself on the walk. They're like, we think you need to go take yourself on a walk. So yeah, I do.
That's cute. That's cute.
Yeah.
Ann just posted, this is not my Ann, but Ann, who's a guest here tonight, finished a 5K on Sunday, first time after 2 weeks taking Cardiotone. Sold. Well, congratulations, Ann. Congratulations.
That's amazing.
Susan asked, does smelling essential oils have as much effect as applying them? I love your essential oils, by the way. I've used parasympathetic to smell from left nostril to help avert a panic attack.
I think smelling is actually the most efficient way to consume oils. And I think it's interesting because I think, a lot of companies want to make money. So what's the fastest way to have you burn through it? To have you like either pouring it all over yourself or drinking it or diffusing it in the air. So I have no issue with smell. I think that sometimes people, it helps, it's really about intention, right? So it doesn't matter if you're smelling something and thinking intentionally, like this is going to go to the liver. I think sometimes when you topically apply and touch that organ, it also activates intention. So it defaults to whatever works best for you. But yeah, I think smelling is amazing.
Yeah.
For a lot of the reasons that Tom said, it goes straight into your brain. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. It's really a frequency reset.
And there's a concept called network medicine. What network medicine means is that whatever you put in your mouth, whether it's a pill, whether it's a capsule, whether it's what's on the end of your fork, it doesn't go to one organ. It goes into the bloodstream, which goes everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's not that you take the liver blend just for your liver.
Yeah.
As Jodi is saying, when she's like strung up a bit, she'll take the liver blend and she's not consciously thinking, oh, I need to treat my liver today. No, she's wanting to address this emotional state that may be coming up. So
Yeah.
it's addressing much more than what we label it and try to, not necessarily wanting to pigeonhole, but to help people understand something better. So you take the liver blend and you may notice that your bowel movements are better.
Oh yeah.
Some people may. But wait, but it's a liver blend. What's that got to do with my bowels? So we have to think differently than that.
Yeah. Well,
Go
your
ahead.
bile helps with constipation and the liver produces bile, it's all connected.
Right. The toe bone's connected to the foot bones, connected to the ankle bone. Right. Jean's asking, what are some of the essential oils in the parasympathetic blend?
It's super simple. It's clove and lime. And it's interesting because when I was first playing with oils to kind of activate your parasympathetic nervous system. So as Dr. Tom explained, your nervous system has pretty much two gears, the fight or flight, the lion's chasing me. I have to prioritize survival. Blood is routed away from digestion and detoxification to arms and limbs, and everything non-essential to survival is shut down, to the danger has passed. I'm safe. Now I can route blood back to my core and I can digest my food and assimilate my nutrients. And I was thinking like, oh, parasympathetic, calm, sedative. So I was playing with like relaxing oils like chamomile, lavender, and I was using an aura ring to kind of check heart rate variability and assess parasympathetic tone. And it wasn't doing much. And then I stumbled upon this research by a New York neuroscientist named Kevin Tracy, who was surgically implanting a pacemaker-like device actually on that point behind the earlobe, because that's where your vagus nerve is most accessible. And he was stimulating the vagus nerve to activate parasympathetic. So it's almost counterintuitive. You don't sedate, you stimulate. And so when you're looking at oils, the goal is to get it through the skin and stimulate it without, causing too much damage. So kind of that perfect amount. It's almost like a recipe, right? How much salt do you add? How much garlic? And so it turns out clove, because of this constituent eugenol, is the most stimulatory and the perfect remedy. But the molecules, it's chemistry, they're kind of medium size. So all of the citrus oils, that come from the peel, they're very small molecules. That's why they're also uplifting, because they're so light that they get into your system really quickly. So the combination of clove with lime, which interestingly, people are like, you have to be careful. If it's a citrus oil, it's photosensitive. That's only not if you distill it. That's if it's like a pressed oil, like a squeezed lemon, then yes, be very careful if you go in the sun. But when it's distilled, it doesn't have that problem. So it's a combination, a very specific combination of clove and lime that gets into the system very quickly and is also super stimulatory.
Marvelous. Really great answer. Thank you so much. And it's obvious that Jodi's done her homework in this topic, and she is the expert on this topic. Let's see. Are essential oils good to treat dermatitis? If it is so, which ones are the best and how am I supposed to use them? Thank you, from Christina on Zoom.
Well, I like Dr. Tom. I think that if you're having some skin issues, I would start with diet. I would actually I would work with Dr. Tom and see if maybe there's something that you're eating that is causing an eruption in your skin. I would also look at detox and drainage pathways like your lymph and your fascia. So you could use it that way. I don't see oils as necessarily magic bullets to, it's like my boyfriend's daughter eats a lot of sugar and she's got bad skin. And she's like, what cream should I get? I'm like, stop eating the sugar. Your skin will get better. So if you're looking for an oil, I would maybe start with fascia, and I would do it I would test it on the neck or that area, because what it does is it just, if you think about bracing for impact, like something stressful happens, the fascia is the scaffolding that kind of holds our body together. But often, like, oh my God, like if you're teaching your child to drive, that, bummer handle that you hold on to, you're constantly like, don't hit the mailbox. Well, there's another curb. That's a stop sign. Stop. You're
Right.
always kind of on high alert. And then you get out of the car and you're like, I'm not dead. Thank God. But you're still kind of clenched and tense. So this just lets your body kind of relax. And if the lymph is draining, and the fascia is squeezing around it, or even the vagus nerve, it can get in the way.
Yeah, agreed. Susan asks, I never feel anything when I use the oils, which is discouraging, but I still use them. Maybe I'm not using enough or not in the right spots. How often do you recommend applying them? Every couple of hours?
Well, I guess I would ask what's the goal? Like if, for someone who's like my daughter, who's in perfect health and doesn't, really feel any pain or any issue, she uses them like proactively, but she's kind of, it's like taking a multivitamin when you're a kid. Like, is it, if there's an issue you're hoping to address, then I would hope it's moving the needle. And, I would say like parasympathetic, just do it before meals. Because the big thing, one of the things that really surprised me, I spent a decade, spending an insane amount of time, money, and energy cooking nutrient-dense whole foods and trying to get my kids to eat them, and perfecting like the kale chip. But then, what we do, we'd have the soccer practice. And so like I'd put it on the plate and we'd be driving to soccer practices, they're eating in the back. Not very parasympathetic. If you're stressed when you're eating, you're not digesting, absorbing, and assimilating nutrients. So I would maybe, pull back or email me privately and let me know what you're working on, and I can help you kind of refine it. But, just applying parasympathetic literally before meals or before bed to kind of see how it works. Or, you can even try, like I have a friend who says, if you don't think the supplement's working, like go a day without it and see, can you tell a difference?
Great answer. Thank you so much. Mia on Facebook, it's a comment. I
Okay.
did a total eliminating diet to discover how to heal my rheumatoid arthritis. Kept journals for at least 3 years, documented all progress, and healed all symptoms, all by following Dr. Tom's advice on his Betrayal docuseries. He saved my life. 60 years old next month, now feel 21 again. Listen and learn. All right, Mia, you tell them. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's really great. That's really great. Lynn says, I love Jodi's book. I've been using Parasympathetic, just started Fascia Blend. Karen asked, my husband has a pacemaker. Can he take the Cardiotone? And Karen, the areas of concern with Cardiotone is that it will prevent the production and break up clots. Now, that should not have any direct effect on pacemaker whatsoever. But that is the only caution that we are aware of, is that if you're on a blood thinner, then you don't want to do something that's going to affect your blood clotting mechanisms without having your doctor monitor you. So for my patients who have been on blood thinners and to use Cardiotone, they have to get their blood clotting factors measured, and they're on blood thinners. So here's your baseline. Then you start with a low dosage of cardiotone, maybe 1 every 2 days, and for 2 weeks. And then you go get another blood test to see what your clotting factors are doing. And if they're in the normal range, then you go to cardiotone 1 a day. And then 2 weeks later, you have your doctor check you again. And what you'll find, so far what we've found, is that people eventually no longer need the blood thinning medication. And although their doctors are awkward and uncomfortable agreeing to that, because they think people should take them the rest of their lives, sometimes, in a couple of cases, there's no argument. There's no way to say, no, you need to take this. But wait a minute, my blood clotting factors are all normal now and on this product. So that's the only concern. Pacemakers, I know of no concern with that directly. Patty's asking, what oils help with constipation?
Parasympathetic, definitely. So what's interesting is the whole digestive cascade is triggered by the parasympathetic nervous system. So it causes your mouth to release saliva, your stomach to release hydrochloric acid, your pancreas to release enzyme, your gallbladder to release bile. It's bile flow that kind of is part of what helps with bowel movements. And then it's also, your intestines, it's a little bit like a moving sidewalk, if you think of in the airports. And when you think there's danger, you can't really have a bowel movement when you're trying to outrun a predator. So it helps turn everything back on. The other one that you might consider is the gallbladder one, because sometimes bile is supposed to flow, like water, and sometimes it gets a little viscous. More like molasses, just from stress, hormones, too much fat, too little fat, bad fats. And so anything that you can do to kind of trigger the healthy release of bile will help with constipation and more regular bowel movements.
Really good answer. I'm going to add to that just a little bit. When we eat fats, when the fats come down into the first part of the small intestine, your intestine makes a hormone called cholecystokinin. And the job of cholecystokinin is twofold. It goes to the pancreas to say, I need this much pancreatic enzymes because there's this amount of fats and proteins coming in. And it goes to the gallbladder and says, I need this amount of bile because there's this much fat coming in. And then the gallbladder, when it gets that message, it squeezes appropriately enough bile into through the gallbladder duct down into the gut to digest the fats. And bile is like soap when you're washing dishes. And if you've been washing dishes for a while and the soapy water is all gone, it's just dirty water, and then you put a dish in there, it's not clean anymore because you can't break off the fats in the on the dish that's there. Now, when you have a sensitivity to wheat, you produce 1/3 the cholecystokinin for the amount of fat that you're taking in. And when you produce 1/3 the amount of cholecystokinin that you should, you get 1/3 of the message going to the gallbladder. So what you get is reduced gallbladder emptying, increased gallbladder volume. And when you eat wheat every day and you got this condition in your gallbladder every day, what do you think happens to the bile that's sitting in there? It dries up over time. Well, what does that mean? Stones. And you get gallbladder stones. So anyone that has a problem with constipation, just on that one mechanism, and there are a number of other mechanisms why, but that person should do a wheat zoomer test. We'll put the link here for you to see, do you have a sensitivity to wheat? Because if you do, it likely is creating 1/3 the production of cholecystokinin that your body really needs for the amount of fat that you're eating.
I love that. I had never heard that. That's fascinating.
It is. It's really,
Thank you.
it's great. It's great when the physiology explains the clinical results that you get.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Margot's on Zoom. She asked, did you suggest parasympathetic essential oil when you wake up at 2, 3, 4 a.m.? Or is there something else to use? Do you use apply before going to bed or when you wake up? How long does it take to activate?
So it's pretty interesting. Sleep is, a lot of people, I think, just try to sedate you for sleep. And there are a number of things going on with sleep. I use parasympathetic before bed, and actually not right before, like an hour or so when I'm kind of winding down for the nighttime, because some people find clove to be stimulatory before bed. But what's interesting is if you're having trouble falling asleep, that is often the hormones melatonin and cortisol. So cortisol is kind of your emergency response hormone. And much like your nervous system, your brain can't differentiate from a tiger is chasing me, or I'm worried about tomorrow, I have a meeting, or I have to fire someone, I have to have a complicated conversation, or I'm in a fight with my mother-in-law, my friend, whatever is going on, you're worried about something and your body is releasing cortisol. Now, cortisol and melatonin have kind of an inverse relationship. When cortisol is high, melatonin is low, and vice versa. So if, the tiger is actually chasing you and you fall asleep, you're probably going to die. So it's melatonin, which is released from your pineal gland, that helps you actually fall asleep. And so falling asleep, we have a blend called Circadian Rhythm that you can kind of put not on your face, because if you toss and turn, we don't want it getting in your eyes, but on the top of your head, on the skin above the ear. So right here, and then the back of the head. And what you're doing is surrounding the pineal gland, which is between your eyes and the center of your brain, your third eye, and helping it to naturally release melatonin. So that's for falling asleep. If you wake up around 1 a.m. and you're wide awake, you could go clean the kitchen or, write a report. That is a blood sugar wake up. It's nocturnal hypoglycemia. So for whatever reason, your blood sugar dips too low, you release emergency sugar into your blood, and it's kind of adrenalizing you, you wake up. So for that, we have a blend called Pancreas, because it's the pancreas that releases insulin that carries the sugar out of the blood and back into the cells. So you can actually fall back asleep. So I leave that on my bedside table and just smell it, or you can put a drop on a cotton ball and put that in your pillowcase, or you can apply it to your pancreas, which is on the right side of your body under your rib. If you wake up around 3 a.m. to use the bathroom and you're kind of groggy but easily fall back asleep, in Chinese medicine, every organ has kind of its happy hour. So liver and gallbladder hour are kind of around 3 a.m. And usually what that means is you're detoxifying, and it might be, you might either have too much for the liver, so it gets pushed over to the kidneys, and then you need to go to the bathroom to kind of lighten the load, or whatever's going on. But anything you can do to support your liver, with a liver oil, gallbladder oil, castor oil pack, taking binders before bed. There are a number of things you can do, but sorry, that helps with nighttime waking.
Mark is asking which essential oil would help with neuropathy in the feet, legs, hands. Also, would Cardiotone help with this problem, as my feet and hands are always cold as well? I'll take the second half and answer that while Jodi is clearing her throat. And the answer is Cardiotone may. The ingredients in Cardiotone have been shown to enhance nerve function and vascular function, meaning blood flow. Your blood flows more. I think you might notice within 2-3 weeks of taking it that all of a sudden you're not having those cold hands and feet as much. Now, there are a number of reasons for cold hands and feet. Could be the neuropathy, and given that you're suffering from neuropathy, that would make sense. But also a sluggish thyroid is something to consider when you're chilled all the time. And for that, you need to do a blood test to see about thyroid function, and always include antibodies in that blood test when you have your doctor order a test for you. But it's worth checking to identify, because if that's a sleeper condition in the background, it'll just progress and get worse. Jodi, you're
not coughing anymore. Yeah, I do have Hashimoto's, and it's interesting. My hands and feet used to always be cold. So what I do is I made a circulation blend, and it's high in like cypress and other good circulatory oils. So I just put a little drop on my wrists and above my ankles, and that helps a lot. What it does, the reason is it has oils like peppermint and black pepper, which kind of vasodilate. So make the the veins bigger so that it's easier to get blood flow. Because, the extremities, the further things are from the heart, the more challenging it is to get blood flow. And especially, your brain, like it kind of defies gravity. This is my other favorite. When I have kind of a back-to-back day, or I have to write like a really intensive research blog, I put a little bit of this also like on my neck and on the back of the head to help with blood flow to the brain.
Marvelous. Marvelous. Hi from Maine. This is Dee on Facebook. Hi from Maine. What would you use for low cortisol, average in the morning, and then low the rest of the 3 points?
So it's really interesting. Like I've done all those saliva tests, and like your cortisol, it's not like it's flatlined, at least for most people. It's like high when it's supposed to be low, like high before bed when you're supposed to be falling asleep, or low in the morning when you wake up. So I love the idea. And actually, Tom, you just wrote a great blog about adaptogenic herbs, like plants that kind of balance you out. So if you're a little too high, it brings you down. If you're a little too low, it brings you back up. So it just levels you out. So we have a blend called Adrenal that I put on the low back. So the adrenals sit on top of the kidneys on the low back. Your kidneys are the size of your fist, and they start kind of on your bottom rib. So if you take your fist and put it behind your back and align it up with your bottom rib, then right on top of it is where your adrenals are. And that helps a lot to kind of modulate things throughout the day. I think you have a good remedy that you ingest too that's got adaptogens, but that's where I would start.
Yeah. If you have low cortisol, low average in the morning, and then low the rest of the day, it usually suggests that your adrenal glands are not up to the task of whatever your level of intensity of life is. They can't rise to the occasion to get up to the normal range. And if you're low normal to start the day after you've been resting all night, then the rest of the day, we used to call this, one of my mentors would say, it's like you're whipping the dying horse.
Yeah.
You're trying to get the adrenal glands to keep working for you, and it's very difficult. We all know that stress is a terrible thing from a health perspective. All of that basic information and so much of what Jodi has referred to here today comes from Hans Selye, the doctor who coined the word stress in 1948 in a Life magazine article. I've got that article, by the way, coined the word stress with health. And that's where it first came about. And what he showed, unfortunately, when healthy young men die from trauma, their adrenal glands sitting on top of the kidneys, their adrenal glands are the size of a walnut. When young people of the same age die of a degenerative disease, like a heart problem or something like that, their adrenal glands are the size of a peanut. They've shriveled up and worn out. And so if you are in that state of really unable to respond appropriately in life adrenal glands, using the oils or using nutrition can help you function better, but you got to focus on rebuilding the adrenal glands. And how do you rebuild a gland? One cell at a time, meaning it's going to take a couple of years to rebuild, but you don't want to go down that path unless you have to. And the way that you can identify if you have to or not is a provocative challenge adrenal stress test. And this is highly sophisticated, but I don't know that you'll ever find this information if I don't tell you this, that you find a doctor who will do this test. The laboratory is Meridian Valley Labs, only ones in the country that I know do this. And it's an ACTH challenge adrenal stress test. And they give you a shot of the hormone that your brain makes saying saber-tooth tiger, called ACTH, saber-tooth tiger. Then they collect the urine for a couple of hours to see how much adrenal hormones are produced. So you give a urine sample beforehand, you get the shot that your body thinks there's a saber-tooth tiger here, And then how well is your adrenals responding? And it measures 11 different hormones that are supposed to respond to the stress of life. And what you get to see, the rule is test, don't guess. And what you get to see is, wow, this one, and this one are just not responding at all. And they're made in the adrenal medulla, the center of the adrenal glands. And this one are low normal. They're made in the adrenal cortex. Okay, that's okay. So how do I rebuild the adrenal medulla? And then you have to go down that path. I mean, I'm sorry to be so complicated, but you can go back and watch this again. It'll live on our YouTube station and then you just take notes, or you record this, or you go to Meridian Valley Laboratories online and look for the ACTH challenge test. And then you find a doctor who will do it for you. Okay. But in the meantime, the oils can work really well. And of course, changing your diet, reducing stress, getting some good quality sleep, critically important, all those things come into play. But you want to know, are my adrenals in a state of complete depletion? The other last point to this, you do not get a degenerative disease unless you are in a state of sympathetic depletion. No degenerative disease. You have to be in a state of depletion where your body could not handle the stress anymore, and it beat up that system, beat it up, whatever. It's your cardiovascular system, your brain for dementia, your joints for rheumatoid, whatever it is. But none of that damage occurs, because if you can handle the stress of that event coming in, you don't create an inflammatory reaction. So you don't have the inflammation. So that's the goal, of course, always, is to reduce the inflammatory triggers in our life. Let's see. Maria's on Facebook. She asked, do you recommend any oil use for supporting eye vision?
It's funny. I know I've played with that myself, and people told me that the liver is correlated with the eyes. I'm nearsighted. I wear glasses, and I personally have not found that to be helpful. So I think there are other things that probably are, certain supplements like vitamin A, but I would never put oils in my eyes, and I personally have not found that oils help my vision.
Thank you so much for that. Let's see. If you're someone who tends to suddenly feel very faint when having an invasive medical procedure, do you know if there's anything to help? That's from Jane.
Gosh, that is a wonderful question. I have not specifically dealt with something like that. My best guess would be, your heartbeat gets fast. So probably supporting the adrenals and the vagus nerve. If you want to try that, and if it doesn't work, let us know and we'll refund you. But I'm curious. That is not something I've done before, so I can't be definitive in my answer.
Really good answer. Thank you. That's very, very clear. Let's see. Is the liver blend for support for liver or detox only?
That's a great question. I mean, your liver performs like 500 functions, and supporting your liver, I mean, it does regenerate. So it has that, but I have found, like, I have Hashimoto's. I found the more I support my liver, my liver is like the best choice I ever made. Every time I do something to support the liver, it has kind of that effect, and it helps everything. It helps digestion. It helps sleep. It helps my skin. I used to have rosacea. Supporting the liver made that go away. So it supports a number of things. We do have the liver support blend, which is more of the emotional blend. And then we have just a plain liver blend, which is kind of the energy and vitality of the liver.
Thank you so much. I do have vestibular migraines, although I haven't had migraines for years. A neurologist diagnosed this. Any essential oil for balance issues, which is what I went to the neurologist with?
That's a really wonderful question. I do, with Hashimoto's, the cerebellum gets affected. There are certain oils that I do think help with balance. Actually, the one I like the best, if I'm being honest, is adrenal. Like, I do yoga, and it's fascinating for me because I'll do a balance pose, and if I'm feeling wobbly, I'll put some of the adrenal on my low back, and suddenly I feel more grounded and less wobbly. And I have heard that, when your adrenals are off, because they kind of sit near the hips, it can kind of twist your hips, which impacts your balance. So, obviously work with your practitioner. The other suggestion I have is like lymph, and just supporting lymph drainage from the head to kind of ease the headaches. But again, that's not something I've specifically dealt with. So that's my best guess, but keep me posted.
Vestibular migraines without having migraines is a diagnosis I would question. I would wonder about that, and I would explore that one. I'll give you one path that you might want to consider. When a person goes to a doctor with some type of balanced brain, nervous system dysfunction, doctor makes a recommendation, take this, it doesn't work. You go back a few months later, they give you something else that doesn't work. If you go back again, they send you to a neurologist. The neurologist gives you something, doesn't work, maybe a little bit better, but not great. You go back. If it's a really good neurologist, they refer you to a tertiary neurology research center. This is where the geeks of geeks house themselves. The ones that just love research and love going into trying to figure out how can we help this person. The best of the best. And they published the study that showed when a person referred to us, when we can identify the cause of their symptoms, the percentage of people with a sensitivity to wheat is 5%. When we cannot identify what's going on for these people, now these are the best of the best, and they can't figure out what neurological disease they've got, the percentage of those people with elevated antibodies to wheat is 57%. And they put them on a gluten-free diet and they get better. In my practice, we did 316 consecutive patients with a very comprehensive blood test. 68% of everyone demonstrated an immune system fighting wheat. If they were fighting wheat, 26% of those people had elevated antibodies to their cerebellum, destroying their cerebellum. That's the balance control center in your brain. If you're having balance problems, you need to do the wheat zoomer, because those balance problems can eventually develop into what's called ataxia. And your feet don't work quite right to walk, or your handwriting is changing, or you can't button the shirt. You can't button the buttons on your shirt. You don't have that muscle control. And that's not uncommon to see. When we had people sensitive to wheat, 26% of them had elevated antibodies to their cerebellum, destroying their cerebellum. So you must check this. The test is the wheat zoomer. Ann will put the link here. Download the information, take it to your doctor and say, please order this test for me. And if they won't do it, order the test on my site. You've got the option to do that, but I'd much rather your doctor orders the test, which will force him to learn about the best test on the market now, the most comprehensive test. They're being forced to learn about it. But please include that in your consideration and your action steps. Carla's on YouTube. She's asking, what essential oil is good for blood flow?
The Circadian Blend.
Great. Gracie's on Facebook. She says, hello from New Hampshire. My cortisol slope test is in reverse. Even though I'm racing in early morning, often by 3 or 4 when I get a lot done, since I go to bed between 7 and 8, I should wake up by 3 or 4 anyway, but sometimes I'm awake around 1. Okay. Is there a question in there? I don't know. I'm sorry.
So if you're looking for oils, we have one for the hypothalamus that you put kind of right here, and that can kind of reboot your rhythms. And then 1 a.m. wake up is usually a blood sugar wake up. So the pancreas blend helps with that.
Got it. We've gone over time.
Okay.
Once again, it goes so fast. It always goes so fast, always. Well, Jodi, thank you so much. It's like Next time we're together, we have to do some dancing because we
Yes.
dance together well.
We do. I know. I hope to dance with you soon.
I would look forward to that. Thank you.